You know, there's a political question as to whether or not we should intervene in Syria, and there's also an ethical question. And there's the combination of those two. And joining us now to talk about the ethics involved and what our responsibility as a free world leader is and what the responsibility of the free world is when it comes to intervening in Syria and protecting the weak is my friend Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, best-selling author. You've read all his books, and great to see you, my friend. Happy New Year to you.
Congratulations on the show. It's wonderful to be back with you, Steve.
Thank you. Yes.
I used to be a regular on your radio shows.
Yes.
So here we are.
Absolutely. And you and I actually, I call it served time in the same radio establishment at one point in separate time periods. So, all right. So you're going to be, first of all, we should tell people on Sunday, September 29th, here in New York City, Cooper Union, you're going to be on a panel. You're going to be running a panel called Genocide. Do the Strong Have a Responsibility to Protect the Weak? And it's a conversation relating to the anniversary of the 20th anniversary of the Rwandan genocide, and now the focus on Syria.
Yeah, it's a historic event because it's the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame, doesn't do a lot of public appearances, certainly in the United States, and Elie Wiesel, who's the living embodiment of the martyred 6 million of the Holocaust. Historic event. I hope people will come a week from this Sunday.
Yes. Okay. It is, and I was going to get to those two guests, which really magnifies it, and of course your participation. But so let's talk about your view. I think you and I differ on this. Let's focus on Syria for a second here. I don't think we have any business in the world in Syria. You know what the president did was he just unilaterally modified a law or signed some kind of order modifying a law that prevents us from sending weapons to terrorists so that we could help the rebels against Assad. That's how crazy and sick this whole thing is. It's not good and evil in Syria. It's evil and evil in Syria.
Okay. You know, the difference between you and me is that I lived in Europe for 11 years, and you almost never see Union Jacks flying in England, where I lived in Oxford, but you see the Stars and Stripes flying outside businesses, people's homes. You know why? We're patriotic. Americans love America because we stand for something. Our patriotism is undermined when we watch children being gassed as the most powerful nation in the world, and we can't even indict Assad as a war criminal. It is a disgrace that the world's sole superpower has not intervened to do something, at least bomb the guy's palaces, force him to live as a rat under the ground where he belongs. He should be tried as a war criminal. He should face either the death penalty. He should certainly be removed. But I got to tell you, you and I are both Jews, and we always speak about the Holocaust. Roosevelt didn't want to bomb the tracks to Auschwitz, and no one gave a damn. How could we not give a damn when people die? That's the moral question, and it does affect our patriotism. And for me, that makes it a national security issue, because if you don't have Americans who love America, you get a country that begins to deteriorate. Secondly, if you're worried about evil fighting evil, then by all means go to the rebels and impose certain conditions on them. That right now they have to sign guarantees to the best of our ability to guarantee that they'll be in power, that there's going to be a constitution that rights for women and minorities and a peace treaty with Israel.
But that's pie in the sky.
Ridiculous.
Okay, but that's pie in the sky. That's not even pie in the sky liberalism. That's just, with all due respect, insanity. You're asking Al Qaeda and the Muslim Brotherhood and people who despise us as much as they despise Assad to sign a pledge, and if they sign this pledge, what will it? You know what the Yasser Arafat says about pledges, and what the mindset of the radical Arabs is about pledges. Sign whatever you got to sign, and then you break it when you want to break it. You think that the Muslim Brotherhood and these Al Qaeda fighters would give women rights? They'll put in Sharia law just like Morsi was doing in Egypt.
If those are the people, then we should not be arming them. But they're not the only ones. There is a Free Syria movement, and estimates are that 70 to 80% of the rebels are people who are Syrians who want to see a better future for their country.
And estimates are that half of them are Al Qaeda.
And if they don't exist, then fair enough. I don't believe in boots on the ground. I'm not speaking about a no-fly zone. I'm talking about, number one, missiles against presidential palaces so that you bring the fight directly to Assad, who is a butcher, who's a monster, who's a mass murderer. Number two, as the Wall Street Journal has so positively advocated, you got to take out this guy's Air Force, and you have to take out there are 6 airstrips from which they are launching all of their planes, which are slaughtering children. Even if you did that just to show that we give a damn, this isn't about evil fighting evil. It's about a dictator slaughtering children. And we are too proud as Americans to allow that to continue as innocent bystanders.
All right, we're talking to Shmuley Boteach, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach here on the Steve Malzberg Show. Let me ask you this then what's our responsibility to help the Christians that are being slaughtered all over the Muslim world?
Correct.
Specifically the Copts in Egypt.
Yes.
These many of these rebel groups take over Christian villages in Syria and behead the Christians, or force them to convert at the threat of beheading, make them pay their jizya tax, whatever it's called. So where's our responsibility to go in and defend Christians who are having churches burned and people killed all over the Arab world and all over parts of Africa at the hands of radical Muslims? What do we do there?
First of all, I congratulate you for raising that subject, because it's barely getting any attention.
Yeah.
And it was amazing that 60 Minutes decided to do one segment about Christians being persecuted, and who's persecuting them? Israel.
Yeah, right.
The one true democracy, bastion of human rights in the Middle East. Okay, so look, I don't believe that America's global cop. I don't think that we can intercede and intervene in every single conflict. We don't have the treasure and we don't have the resources, and it's not our responsibility. But neither can we walk away and say that we have no responsibility. There is a balance. The reason why I supported President Bush's invasion of Iraq was because Saddam was the biggest murderer in the world, and you couldn't overlook a man who had slaughtered 1.3 million people and gassed children in Halabja in '88. Same thing is true of Assad now. As far as our responsibilities to stop the slaughter of the Christians, that is monumental. Where is the Pope to speak out about that? I mean, the Pope gets up and Pope Francis seems to be a really good guy, but he's always speaking about how let's pray and fast. Sometimes praying and fasting is not enough. You actually have to strike against the bad guys. Now, the Pope is the one who should be mustering Christendom to protect Christians. That's his responsibility.
Oh, okay, but if you want the President and the Congress of the United States of America to stand up for the slaughtered in Syria, I assume mostly because of the gas used and because children are involved. Children are involved. They're Christians too. We don't hear about it in the media at all. You know that, and I know that, and we know it exists. So where's that line? Where's that distinction? Where do we go from having a responsibility to going to be the world's police? I just don't see it. And Saddam Hussein, in my opinion, we went in because he disobeyed 17 or 19 UN resolutions. He was given chance after chance to obey them, and basically what they called for was show us your chemical weapons, show us your biological weapons. He claimed he had them, and it was a national security interest that we were afraid in the wake of 9/11 he would give those to terrorists. Whether it proved out to be wrong or not, that's why we went in. Not because he had used gas primarily, not because he was slaughtering people primarily. I mean, John Kerry and his wife had dinner with Assad a couple of years ago. Nancy Pelosi went there against the advice of George Bush and sat down with Assad. Kerry went 4 times, 5 times. So why the Christians were not the police? And it's the Pope's responsibility. But in Syria, why doesn't Saudi Arabia go bomb Syria?
Yeah, but Steve, what you're articulating is a growing Republican isolationism
but where's the difference?
That I don't think is good for the party. It's not good for America.
Well, then why are we isolating with the Christians but not isolating with Syria?
First and foremost, this was the argument of Senator Robert Taft in the Second World War, that America, America first, and we shouldn't be intervening in European conflicts. And that would have allowed 6 million Jews died, 12 million would have died, let alone all the world's gypsies, gays, blacks, everyone else who Hitler was slaughtering, had America not intervened. America's greatest moment, the greatest generation, was the Second World War, when we stopped the tyrant. And we could easily have argued, what the heck does saving Britain or France have to do with us? We live across the pond. This is a European conflict. And many Americans, Republicans especially, argued that. And it was the Democratic president, Franklin Roosevelt, that said, no, I'm sorry. He started Lend-Lease. He supported Churchill. Ultimately, after Pearl Harbor, we got involved in the conflict. And we saved civilization. Now, the difference between the regular slaughter of people, which is terrible, and of course we have to try to stop, versus triggers for real genocide, like using poison gas, are monumental. The moment poison gas is used, we know what poison gas is used for. It's used to gas people, genocide, mass murder. There's been too many genocides already. We can't allow it. So we can't stop every mass murder and slaughter. We can't. We're not God. We're not omnipotent. We don't have all the money in the world. But the moment poison gas is used against kids, that is a genocide trigger, and the guy has got to be removed. What an embarrassment for the United Nations that Russia and Putin is a thug. He is a dictator and a thug, and he has not allowed even a single condemnation in the United Nations Security Council against Syria. Now, what is the UN good for? If it can't even condemn, even a condemnation, that doesn't cost us anything. That's not boots on the ground. It's not missiles. It's not tomahawks. It's just flipping words, and we can't even condemn him.
The UN, of course, is good for nothing when they have Russia and China on the Security Council, and Iran in charge of the Commission on Human Rights. It's a farce. It's always been a farce.
Okay,
it's worthless.
So the United States, therefore, has got to be the one that implements morality in this world, or we're left with that farce.
Okay, here's what should have been done.
And now Putin has been emboldened, and that's the worst thing of all.
And here's what should have been done. I would have railed against him because I wouldn't have agreed with it, but the president should have come to the microphone and said, 3 hours ago, I ordered a strike on Assad's And that would have been it.
Right.
This is a circus. It's demeaning to the
I
U.S.
agree.
It makes us look like fools. It makes him look incompetent and impotent when it comes to being a commander-in-chief.
And it elevates Putin of all people. We want Putin to be the leader of the world,
and yet
for
you
God's
still
sake.
want us now, after this deal falls apart, if it falls apart, which it will, and after the Congress either refuses to vote or says no, which they will, you still want them to launch the rockets then?
Steve, if Adam Lanza goes into Newtown and he slaughters 22 innocent children, it doesn't make a difference if he later agrees to forfeit his arsenal at home. He's still going to be punished. A guy like him has to be punished. Same thing is true with Assad.
Right.
You cannot kill 400 children with poison gas, let alone all the men and women's lives also matter, by the way, and simply the world turns the other way. And by the way, this has been Obama's lowest moment in his presidency. President Obama acted courageously in taking out Osama bin Laden. He didn't ask for any congressional approval. He struck in the heart of an ally deep in Pakistan. I don't know why he did it this way this time.
Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, join him, Elie Wiesel, and
Paul Kagame, president of Rwanda.
and the former president
and Sheldon
of Rwanda.
Adelson will be there, Michael Steinhardt.
On September 29th at Cooper Union in New York City. Pleasure,
Go
sir.
to Shmuley.com to get tickets.
Shmuley.com on the Steve Malzberg Show. We'll be right back.
God bless you, Steve.
Sir. Thank you very much. Pleasure.